Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to the program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair, with certified technicians in all engines, and fiberglass specialists. The Tackle Box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
Welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. I'm going to truncate a lot of this. Cryptozoologist has been the subject this morning. I'm still wrapping my head around it. I guess I haven't gotten through the coffee yet because I'm trying to figure, is this some sort of Bitcoin life form? And apparently, how did crypto become the
Whoa, wait a minute. This is Chad Adams. He hasn't introduced
Welcome back to Chad Adams. I haven't done any of it because I'm still completely stunned.
You're going off into a tangential thing. And, it's funny. We were just talking, TK's fascinated by one of the guests that's coming on later. And, she studies fungi, things of that nature. And we'll get into that. A lot of details, a lot of fascinating stuff. But we were discussing, I said, TK, you're on the doorsteps of George Norrie's, Coast to Coast, the longest running radio show in history. And he said, "Oh, those are crazy people." I said, "No, there's actually a lot of bright people that do that show. They're biologists, they're PhDs, they're cryptozoologists." And he just tripped out on me and went off into some weird world. What do you mean? Cryptocurrency, cryptozoology.
That can't
actually
be real.
Cryptozoology is a study of like extinct or questionable species, from chupacabras all the way to Bigfoot. And so there have been a number.
See?
They study species that are either mythological to see if there's any truth to it. They study to see if there are any creatures that have been spotted that actually do exist. And so they've discovered a number of species that they thought were either extinct or didn't exist.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but
not
it
aliens.
was aliens.
Cryptozoologists aren't, unless they find aliens in like the Amazon jungle, then running around and eating Cayman alligators or crocodiles. So other than that, no, they're just they're involved very closely with some geneticists that are trying to bring back the thylacine, which is thylacine from over there in Tasmania, and also which was a marsupial carnivore that was extinct in the 30s. There's actually film of a thylacine. Very strange looking animal. And with mammoths, that's the obsession with folks trying to resurrect the mammoth using elephant DNA and stuff. So we're still a long way off, but they're trying. So it may well be that you'll see a facsimile of a mammoth from resurrected DNA, because they're still thawing up in the permafrost. People will eat them as steaks every now and then. Hard to believe, but true. People have eaten mammoth.
Welcome to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Please visit the Big Talker website. Download the app for Android and iOS devices. Peruse the schedule of content. Pair the device with your automotive entertainment center. Take the Big Talker anywhere you want to be. Email the group, the folks here at Big Talker Info. Send us compliments. I can't do it without the music. I was trying to make up for what I couldn't do earlier because my mind was just completely shattered by... what does crypto as a prefix mean, then? Is that like...
Strange.
Okay, strange. All right, I'll go with that. That's why cryptocurrency is so difficult to understand. Because once you put crypto in front of it, money, and you're saying, unknown money or weird money, is that... No?
Well, don't know, dude. It's just a strange thing.
Do you have it in Bitcoin?
No. Why would I?
Well, Mr. Goolsby has crypto.
Yes. He loved to trade in options too. So,
And he's got a little separate account that he just says, this isn't affecting my life in any way. I'm just going to play it and see how it happens, see what happens. But I figured other people were doing that. Like, if you got an extra $50, you buy a Bitcoin.
And by the way, like, cryptography is really where the word comes from. So if in cryptography is kind of, you're just trying to unravel a code, trying to solve something. And so that's what these folks are doing. They're trying to unravel, discover strange things. It existed long before cryptocurrency did. But cryptocurrency, remember, if you study it, those are all people trying to solve a mathematical equation. That's what cryptocurrency really is. It's accumulating things based on solving. So there are people that there's a certain mathematical setup. There's a limited number of original Bitcoins. And when they get to the end of it, that's it. There's no more Bitcoins. But there are farms set up, digital farms that are consuming vast amounts of power trying to solve these equations. And it's, this digital lockbox, very complicated stuff. But what I think that it's a shady, that's just me. And there's so many shady aspects of it. And the fact that El Salvador, linked their currency to it, I don't think was a genius maneuver at all. And do I think that there are going to be some serious impacts long term with the nature of cryptocurrency? And the goal is to get away from government currencies, to get away from like the dollar or the yen or the ruble, any kind of global currency that's backed by governments. They're trying to bypass that and create a currency that is an unregulated currency. In their theory, it would be a true free market currency. But it's a beautiful way to, if you're a drug lord, and we always, everything goes back to drug lords, right? Guys can make anything go back to sex, and in a casual conversation, you can make anything go back to a drug lord or the woolly mammoth. And I'll give you that one at some point in time. Okay. Everything goes back to the woolly mammoth. But if you're a drug lord and you're trying to move money around the planet Earth, crypto is a great way to do it. You transfer an enormous amount of funds, you turn it into crypto, you move it across the planet instantaneously, it pops up on a hard drive, and it's then changed and transformed, and then you've got clean crypto money. So it's a magical way. Drug lords love it. If you're in the drug trade, it's a wonderful way to move.
Would be all over it, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. The more likely you are to believe in Bigfoot, the more likely you are to probably be a cryptocurrency trader.
Well, I'm
that was
safe.
a tie-in.
Yeah, I'm safe then. But I guess you have to have money to get cryptocurrency.
But again, that's me. I'm not judging everyone else. It's just not me.
Right.
I like more tangible things, and
I'm not a Green Bay Packer fan,
My investment strategies are very different than those of. I'm not someone who just likes to be in the latest, greatest, trendy thing.
Hey, but there is something you would know about.
You're taking another leap of logic there, but I'll track you on that.
I'll throw this one out there on the air, completely no net, but this is live. The crown that Miss Camilla will be wearing in the coming weeks apparently has a single, it's got over 150 stones in it, and one of them weighs in at like 5 carats. How big is a 5 carat stone?
A 5 carat stone, look at your thumbnail.
All right.
About there.
That's a 5 carat diamond. That's massive, dude.
Yeah, well, it's all about cut quality, right? Cut and quality. It depends. Are we talking emeralds? Are we talking rubies, sapphires, diamonds? So, and yeah. But what do you expect? I mean, they're owned by the British people. It's not like she owns it, or I doubt she owns it. I saw Charles hopping on a jet this morning. He doesn't own that jet. The British Commonwealth owns that jet. So there. Anyway, that's a fascinating. That's going to dominate news cycles for days.
Yeah.
Because it's irrelevant. I was thinking about that from a political standpoint. Someone who sat on the front row of history for the past 70 years, the longest serving monarch, one of the youngest to assume the throne. Charles will be the oldest to assume that her son will be Charles III, will be the youngest to assume the throne. The oldest to assume the throne. But the monarchy changed dramatically. I mean, as surely as
they changed a lot of rules.
Sure, but the leftists attacked her. I mean, a lot of people attacked the queen. They used it. It was pretty nasty stuff that was said from leftists out there, even Jamel Hill, who said some stuff. But you got to remember, the queen also sat over the decolonization of the British Empire. That this is a very interesting monarch who knew how to strike a certain tone and lead her people in a way, because the monarchy is largely figurehead, but it also is kind of the reflection. It's either setting the tone for the nation or a reflection of the nation. And certainly, the British Empire coming to a close, when you would say the sun never set on British soil because it was so extensive. And now it's certainly an Eastern power that shares a lot of the values that we in the United States have. It's why one of our best strategic partnerships is with the UK. And to see that change, 14 presidents, I believe, she worked with, had a relationship with. And it was it's just an interesting time as history evolves. This is a new era. The second Elizabethan era has ended, and now we're in the era of Charles III. And again, I don't know what the future of the monarchy will be in a new age, a current age. I think it's a bit outdated, outmoded. I'm not sure that if it will survive. There is a movement in Britain to get rid of the monarchy entirely
because it's expensive.
Well,
they don't really do much besides handshaking and the pomp and circumstance type stuff. It's also a big business. Okay, so people come from all over the world. They spend lots of money, drop lots of money there in Great Britain because of the monarchy. There's something about it that is fascinating and interesting. Well, it's not like you get to play chess with the guy.
There are other monarchies, but think of any monarchy that's attracted the kind of attention globally this one has. You probably couldn't name another king or queen in another country. If you could, but it'd probably be historical, but not current.
And it would take Google.
Excuse me?
It would take Google for me to find any other. There
you go. So what I'm saying is, you know who Charles is, you know who Di is, you know who Camilla is, you know who, the crazy William. You got to think about who the biggest loser is in this one. And it's certainly the wayward son of Prince Charles. It's William's brother, the one that married Meghan Markle, and they absconded off into the country and tried to turn their back. You got to be thinking, what are they thinking right now?
Man, I'm missing out on a huge chunk of $400 million or something.
You're missing out, and you're irrelevant, and
you can't go to the funeral.
Your crazy leftist libtard wife, took you down that path where she's not all that successful in show business, and she certainly isn't popular with the Commonwealth or the people. So yeah, we'll see how that all plays out.
That had to be, that's going to be a weird one to play out for the next couple of weeks, because the moment it happened, the moment she was in the hospital, it's like every newspaper on the planet just switched over. There is no war in Ukraine. There is no global. Everything just went sideways, and now it's all about a queen that has nothing to do with American politics. Which, I admit she's been a figurehead and a mainstay in global politics, as you said, for 50, 60 years, 70 years?
70 plus, yeah.
Yeah. So that part is certainly part of it, but man, that's a lot of, wow. That's a long time, too.
Yeah. And you got to realize that, the former, King Edward, 2 kings back, was actually there before Elizabeth and abandoned being king.
He ran away.
He ran away to America with a woman. It's amazing what people will do for a woman, right?
It's the most powerful drug there is.
He says, I'm king, but I really dig this other woman and this divorcee in America, and so I'm off. I'm off to the U.S. Because I really dig this chick, and I just want to be a normal guy. So, and the other thing to think about, to consider that I don't think a lot of people do, is if you look at Elizabeth, so she becomes queen very young. There's an entire Netflix series loosely based on her life called The Crown, but she becomes queen very young. And think about this: if your life was predestined for you, in other words, now people can say, "Oh, it's great to be queen," okay, but if you look at the history of monarchies, it's not. It really is closer to Game of Thrones than it is any kind of Cinderella story. It really is. You never know who to trust. There's someone always out to get you, stab you, poison you, set you up, have a coup attempt, switch it, have a war, my kingdom for a horse, Richard III kind of stuff. You never know who to trust. And so your life is in doubt, but she's thrust into this life, and people say, well, it's great. She's queen. Look how wonderful it is. But it's not. your life isn't really your own. So she literally gave 70 years of her life to a job that she didn't pick. And people say,
God, it's good to
she
be
was
American.
Queen, though. She was waited on hand and foot. But it wasn't like her life was her own. She couldn't go out and do any of the things that you and I could do, and we take for granted every day.
Like go
like
to the
Elvis
store.
Presley. Elvis Presley couldn't go out and do the things that the rest of us would do every day. I mean, when your life becomes your prison, she handled it with grace and dignity. And set from 24 to 96,
72
boom.
years. Damn.
Her entire life dictated, controlled, and donated to the British people. Wasn't her money. Yes, she benefited from it, I think, life, health, all of that.
And
but
it's not like it was in her purse.
No, but her life wasn't her own. And the people don't think about that. It's one of those things that you just have to take that extra step. You can challenge the monarchy, you can attack the institution, you can go after British history, whatever you want to. But then you look at the individual serving in that role. She wasn't elected to it. She didn't aspire to it. She was born into it. And there's no way that was an easy thing to go through. So anything you say on a day, not just criminal activity, but anything you say can and will be used against you.
Throughout your
everything
while
becomes
you're
a headline.
awake.
Yes.
Man, that's even greater scrutiny. It reminds me of how good it is to be an American. If I want to be a king, I can be a king. If I don't want to be a king, I ain't got to be a king.
Oh, there's no kings here. That's the other mistake. I think a lot of people believe that. I think Americans have a unique fascination with British royalty. And I think that there's something, I can't say what it is. It's something about the nature of humankind. We're drawn to creating monarchies in our own ethos, in our own culture.
Oh,
and we do that. And I'll give you the example. If you'll remember when Kennedy was in office, what was the common, it was Bobby Kennedy and Jack Kennedy and the family and Jackie O. And what did they call it? They called it Camelot. And so there's this desire to create royalty even in this country, though it's not real. We do. We start, and you would say they do that with Trump. They've tried to elevate him to a position in culture that is beyond just that of an elected official.
Kind of like Jim Jones.
Well, that's different. I wouldn't ascribe people who, willingly moved their entire world to Guyana and poisoned themselves with Trump. People want to say it's a cult, but it's not a cult because it doesn't demand anything of you. There's nothing about
your money.
No, it doesn't even demand your money.
Donate now, grift now, save me now.
That's partisan politics. Don't confuse the two. Being in a cult is very different. You can make the argument about several religious entities. I mean, you start shades of gray away from, the Hale Bopp Comet Heaven's Gate cult, actually a cult, Jim's Jones. But then you start moving into Scientology, and there's many aspects of Scientology that become very cult-like. There are aspects, and then you could go into Mormonism.
Their school system is wild.
Some people would make the entire argument that all faiths are a type of cult, but they're not. There's certain rules that govern cults, and we're way off the topic of Queen Elizabeth here. But the point being is our fascination with monarchies and the future of monarchies is yet. And I'd rather have some sort of monarchy than a dictator. Almost any time.
Is there really a difference? I mean, is it just a matter of malicious,
because
nefarious?
Constitutionally, the monarchy doesn't have a lot of power in the British.
Huh. Right?
That's the distinction with the difference. Yeah, the king and queen can't just nationalize
the army or something and go
or means of production. They can't nationalize that.
Okay, I see.
Right. So that's why you have parliament. That's why you have a prime minister. And it's interesting. Another interesting thing about what's happened is the British government finds itself in a fascinating time. It's going to have a brand new prime minister and a brand new king at the same time. I can't recall that ever happening. So, we've had a series of prime ministers, obviously, but they hadn't switched monarchs in 70 plus years. So it's going to be a complete change in the way Brits look to the world and the way they look to themselves.
Now,
and we're fascinated by it in this country.
Would this fascination fall under the category of cult of personality? I've never quite understood that term. And
I don't think so. I mean, it's more cult of person. I know. I think it's more celebrity. I think there's more of a celebrity thing here than a cult of personality, because again, that she was not the charismatic leader that you go throw yourself. She had to inspire her nation at different times, but it was never a demand. There's never a fealty demanded. This isn't Game of Thrones. I mean, it just isn't. It's not where everybody has to bow and swear allegiance to the queen. Every citizen has to do it. But there is a love and an affinity for this queen. And for most people's lives, they've never known anything else.
Right.
If you're under the age of about 76, 78, you have no memory of anything. And remember, her ascension and her coronation was a historical moment for the world. It was the largest televised event at the world at that point in time.
Oy.
That's hard to believe.
It is.
So.
And that's why I'm trying to unpack some of the terms, because I've never really understood the use of the term cult of personality, and trying to understand it, that I didn't know if this would rise to that same level.
No, I think more of either the cults of personality or the Kennedys. I think that Trump, to a certain extent, I think there are cults of personality. The Kardashians, there's a cult of personality there. There's lots of that. When you transcend being a celebrity, certainly Elvis, I think you could argue that there was a cult of personality there. But that's a very different thing here than the monarchy.
Because that's, again, it's something I didn't study monarchy in school. We did have a civics course that taught American government, but I never.
And see, this is where you and I part ways. So part of my study was in England. I spent time at the University of London, over in Oxford, Swansea in Wales, and Edinburgh in Scotland, studying British culture and history. And so that was part of my. And I would have to say I'm a true Anglophile. Because, oh, you're a racist, bigot, homophobe. No, just fascinated by British culture and history. And it's very different than ours in so many ways. And terrible food. So.
That's how you discovered the terrible
food. As we said yesterday. So, but a fascinating a history, profound. It's our concept of what is old versus their concept of what is old. I mean, when I would go and study in certain places, or when I was in Edinburgh, and the road leading up to the castle predated Christ. That's an old roller. You see Hadrian's
Wall.
Wall.
A mind bender.
From the Roman Empire, you go to York and you see the walls of the Roman Empire. It's here, if you see something 150, 200 years old, it's pretty damn old. But or you down to St. Augustine, the nation's oldest city, and you're talking still, you're stretching it to 400 years. Over there, 1,000 years is nothing. So their sense of mortality is very different than ours. The passage of time, their position in it, very, very different.
And they have bullet holes in their churches that are older than our country. Yes,
they do. Well, musketry, but certainly. And when you think about that, I mean, Queen Elizabeth essentially lived through 1/3 of our nation's existence.
Damn,
that's
insane, dude. Don't put it like that. That really warps the head.
That's perspective. So.
Man, so we're like the neighborhood yipping little puppy.
We are, even the way the Brits perceived our breakaway from the king. To us, it's a big deal. We defeated the greatest military power on the planet Earth. To them, it was more like Vietnam. It was an incursion far away. They had an empire to maintain, and we were just a
pain in the ass,
part of it. So it wasn't like they focused 100% of their energy on us. They just didn't at that time. And so, luckily we were able to restore a partnership even after the War of 1812 and the way things played out from there on out and through World War. And that was very alarming time for them when they went through World War II. And Churchill gave that famous speech where, we'll fight them here on our shores. If we have to, we'll fight them from American shores. There was a serious concern. We forget that Nazi Germany could have eradicated England as a monarchy and everything. It could have been certainly part of the Third Reich. And then we would be looking at a very different world had there come a truce with the Germans owning Europe and the Russians, owning what they owned. It would be a very different world. Our ascension to superpower status really after World War II changed the makeup of Europe and the world. But again, I'm getting off into tangents. We've got plenty more to discuss today.
Yep. As a matter of fact, when we come back from the break, we're going to have Mr. Miller from zerocancer.org with apparently, I did not know this, there was a history between the Big Talker of old and this organization. Apparently, y'all had a relationship early in the day.
Yep.
And
that's good folks. Good folks.
And that's why I'm looking forward to having him on here after the break. So please don't go nowhere. It's the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. I'll be right back after all of these messages. And, of course, the news break from our friends at WAY. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Queen Elizabeth has died. Her impact reached all around the world and across the pond, right here in the Cape Fear. Howie Franklin is the manager of the Cape Fear Regional Jetport in Oak Island. Before landing in Brunswick County, he served as the chief flight attendant on Air Force One. He worked under 5 presidents, meeting countless famous people, but he says Queen Elizabeth II stood out. You can hear from him on our website at wwaytv3.com. It is the final day of operations for Wilmington's True Colors, the brewery that has employed active gang members since 2017. Owners announced the shutdown earlier this week. WWAY has been invited to interview the employees before doors close for good later today. We'll see what the work experience has meant to those who work alongside rival gang members and find out their plans for the future. New Hanover County Schools is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Education for potential violations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act after a parent filed a complaint accusing the school district of discrimination. Katrina Aldrich says her oldest son went to Hoggard High School, a predominantly white school in the district, and 2 of her sons went to New Hanover High School, whose student body is primarily black and Hispanic. She began to notice a significant difference in the facilities in 2014. Aldrich says she sent letters to the school system and county about the differences between the schools and filed an official complaint with the federal government's Office for Civil Rights last August. And if you are willing to brave the rain, the Wilmington Police Department is offering a very special meet and greet today. You'll be able to meet Elton. He's a police source injured by an alleged impaired driver nearly 2 weeks ago. His trainers say Elton's hydrotherapy treatment is going well, and he is making great progress. Visitors are welcome to stop by Robert Strange Park at 401 South 8th Street starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For more on these stories, you can head over to wwaytv3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We have a pretty nice day on tap in the Cape Fear region with sunshine and clouds. Relatively lower humidity and temperatures right where they should be for this time of year. We'll get into the middle 80s inland of the coast, lower 80s along the immediate coastline, still dealing with a high risk for rip currents for those east-facing beaches. As we head into the overnight hours tonight, that's when we're going to start to see some changes take shape. Clouds increase and a few showers in store for us as our temperatures fall to the low 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
This week on All Things Brunswick, Dr. Terry Stoops from the John Locke Foundation will join us to discuss the recently released test scores from the state regarding student achievement and also to discuss the Brunswick scores in relation to statewide. Join us 6 p.m. Tuesdays here on The Big Talker.
Are you tired of making bad choices? Well, don't. Choose Best Choice Roofing for all your roofing needs. From free inspection to timely repairs, we've got you covered. And with our Owens Corning Platinum Preferred status, we'll have you covered for years to come. Give us a call at 910-228-5000 or go to bestchoiceroofing.com today to schedule your absolutely free, no-obligation roof assessment.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. Please visit the website at BigTlker.live. Download the app for Android and iOS devices. You can also send an email with any comments, questions, concerns, compliments, or critiques. And let's just get the show on the road. We have smart, good people on right now, like Chad Adams and Mr. Matt Miller with ZeroCancer.org. How are you gentlemen doing this morning?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
And
Matt, we appreciate you joining, man, because our next door neighbor here who moved away at Caswell Beach was a big part of that, and actually got us involved with you guys. And you know, people just don't realize how prevalent prostate cancer is, and yet it's becoming more and more survivable every day. So kind of give us the background on the event and the little bit of the history behind it and how it came about.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you're talking about Lyle, and Lyle was a fantastic volunteer with Zero. He still is. He's up in Virginia Beach now, and he, started this as Run for a Life, and his idea was to get messaging out about prostate cancer, about awareness, early detection, and making sure that people knew, how much this really affects people and how many people it actually affects. Because the rate, it's 1 in 8 men in America, which is about the same as breast cancer. And we hear a lot about breast cancer. We've done a really great job of raising awareness around that disease. And so we want to do the same thing around prostate cancer because it is very similar in instances. So what Lyle started was a run walk. I believe it was in 2017. And he had a lot of support along the way, particularly with the Wilmington Road Runners and different clubs around here. And then in 2019, we kind of transitioned it. He wanted to partner up with Zero, the End of Prostate Cancer, and support our programs and kind of make it into part of our national run walk series. So, of course, we did that in 2019 for the first time, and then we didn't do a run walk for 2 years. So here we are bringing it back in 2022, and it's coming up this Saturday, September the 10th. We're going to be at Longleaf Park at 9 a.m. is when the race starts. We kick off our registration about 7:30, and we start our opening ceremony at 8:30. We'll have a kids dash sponsored by International Paper at 8:50, and then right at 9 a.m. we'll do our 5K. And after the run walk, we do a survivor and caregiver ceremony where we recognize patients, caregivers, survivors, people who battled this disease. And we hear from our mission speaker, which this year is Dr. Shauna Boyle from Wilmington Health Urology. So we got a lot going on that morning. So far, we've raised a little over $43,000. And we're looking to get to 50 this year. So just a little ways to go there, but we're excited about where everything's headed.
Yeah, and after COVID, you hope to have a larger event, more people participating, more people being out and about. And it's almost like a spinoff of Relay for Life. I was a part of Relay for Life for over a decade. And this is, much more focused, much more specific. And for $43,000 for an area, the Southeast North Carolina, that's phenomenal. Outstanding work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about, where the money goes and what kind of changes you're seeing, because you're not on the front lines necessarily, but you are with respect to general citizenry out there who knows very little about this disease until they get that diagnosis that, hey, your PS4 levels are not PlayStation, no, but I mean, your levels are high, these kind of things. So kind of give people any kind of statistics on prostate cancer you can.
Yeah. So I'll tell everybody, first of all, and I did this last show, is, I'm not a doctor. I work in this space. I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night, so I don't know if that helps my credibility.
Holiday Inn Express, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Zero, the End of Prostate Cancer, what we're dedicated to doing is ending prostate cancer. It's in our name. And we do that through a variety of things. And I'll focus kind of a little bit on each one. We work with patient support programs, which I think differentiates us a lot from some organizations. Some organizations focus a lot on research, and of course, you got to have that to end the disease. But we're meeting patients and families where their needs are. The second thing that we do is advocacy. A big part of this is changing or adding or modifying how the government approaches this disease and coordinating how it's attacked. So we do a lot of that in Washington. And then So I'll cover our support programs. So the first thing we have is our 0360. It's a comprehensive patient support program. It's a hotline that's free for prostate cancer patients or their families to call. And this does two things. Nurse navigators in a hospital or in a practice setting don't have a lot of time with patients, right? They can help set up your treatments, where you're going to go and what you're going to do. But when you have a lot of very intricate insurance questions or things that need to kind of get handled on your own, we have people that can help you do that. Not everybody's going to be versed enough to make a phone call to their insurance company and know what to say, who to talk to, and what to do. So we have somebody that's going to do that for you. The other thing is we have a wide variety of financial situations, right? Prostate cancer does not discriminate. It's going to, if you're rich, you can have high prostate cancer. If you're poor, you can have prostate cancer. So for people who are having financial troubles, whether that's managing paying for their treatment or just in general trying to figure out how to deal with this if it's affecting their job, we have people that will help them from everything from negotiating their bills, their monthly bills, to their mortgage. So working with them to be financially helpful. And basically, what this does is it relieves stress, right? Because a cancer diagnosis is hugely stressful. So 0360 is there to take some of that burden off people. The next thing that we do is we have US2 support groups. So we merged with an organization called US2 back in December, and they had about 200 local in-person support groups before the pandemic. Right now, we've got about 150 of those back, and we're working to build out those. And Wilmington is actually a place where we used to have a support group, and we don't anymore. So that's one of my big goals this coming year is to start that support group back up. We have online support services. So no matter where you are, if you can't have access to a local support group or not, we have online communities that people can join and talk to other people who have been through this disease. We have peer-to-peer support and one-on-one support. So we have a program called Mentor. And Mentor, we have about 50 guys that have basically volunteered. They're all volunteered, who've been through prostate cancer, and they've been through training to help other people. And one-on-one, we'll match them up with anybody that calls in, and we try to do that within 48 hours when they have questions about treatment, when they have questions about what they're going to go through, or they're going through something and need help. So that's another program we have. We also have a similar program. It's a little smaller, but we're growing it for caregivers because there's a huge burden on people who are caring for prostate cancer patients. You know, it affects their lives as well, and they're going through it with them. So we have a network for support for them. And then something I'm really excited about this year, we started a program called Zero Drive. And 50% of the people that called us in our 0360 program said, I'm having trouble getting to treatment. Now, I can't imagine having a cancer diagnosis, having a treatment plan, and then not being able to literally get to radiation treatment or get to where I need to go to get cancer treatment. So something we decided to do was $300 gift cards that help men get to treatment. And all it takes is a prostate cancer diagnosis. There's no income requirements. It's really clear cut. If you have a prostate cancer diagnosis, you can apply for this. And there's a range of different situations. Some people have to fly to go to treatment. They have to go to the Cleveland Clinic or MD Anderson. So, you know, there's a wide variety of travel expenses that go with this. And so we wanted to offer some help for these guys. And the first 6 months this year, you know, with gas prices and everything, we really saw an uptick in that program, and we're able to help some people that way.
And yet progress is being made. I mean, this is something that there's not, you don't hear it a lot, but there is progress being made with respect to detection, early detection, long-term survivability, and also almost making it a livable condition if caught at a certain time. Am I missing something there?
No, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that real quick. So
please take your time.
So the PSA test is one of the big tools that we have to identify prostate cancer. And early on with that test, there was a lot of testing, and it said, oh, if your PSA is going up, you absolutely have prostate cancer. And a lot of treatments were done that maybe weren't necessary. But that's changed over the past few years, where doctors now use it as a tool. We realize that prostate cancer is personal to every individual. So there's a range of ages, and they look at basically how long your lifespan could potentially be and what other diseases you have as to whether or not to even treat prostate cancer, because it can be a slow growing disease. And most men it is. So if you're older, say over the age of 75, and maybe you have some other underlying health conditions, there may not be a reason to go do radical treatment if it's a slow growing disease, right? But if you're 50 years old and you're healthy, that's something to look at. And then there are all kinds of different treatments now if it's caught early, to where you don't have to immediately go to surgery. Now, this is a whole range of things, right? Because like I said, prostate cancer is personal, but personalized medicine is getting better, meaning we can take a look at your genes and, your family history, and then literally say, okay, well, because you have this set of genes, you might be more likely that this could have a reoccurrence if we did this treatment, or, you may want to go ahead and do this because we know that in this type of situation, it possibly could come back. So there's lots of different personalized things that are being done to where it's not just I come into the doctor and then this is how we do it and that's it. There's a lot of different factors they can look at now, which makes the choices a lot better.
I mean, as we see that this is all great news. I think that so much of the past 2 years we've been in lockdown mode. Unfortunately, that lockdown mode, as we're now seeing, led to the propagation of many types of illnesses, not just prostate cancer, but early detection of breast cancers and other types of cancers went just nobody looked. So we've got many aggressive forms of cancer that are hitting more people coming out of COVID. And I think we're going to see mortalities bump up quite a bit from even medullary thyroid cancer and some others. Can you tell us about what you're seeing on the prostate cancer side? Because again, early detection is critical. Most of them are not fast growing, as you articulated. So are we seeing that, or are you aware of that situation happening after 2 years of essentially being locked down and not going to the doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we rely on data from the American Cancer Association. They do a fantastic job of compiling data in all cancers. And yeah, we're seeing the exact same thing. Because as you said, this is a situation where if you go and you find it early, it's more treatable. So now after 2 years, if you didn't go to the doctor for 2 years, all of a sudden this thing's popped up and it may be a little bit more aggressive than it was 2 years ago. So, the big thing, and this is a real challenge because us as guys, we don't like to go to the doctor, right? We go to the doctor when our wives tell us, but we really should take stock of that and make sure that once a year we're going and we're getting checked. Now, there's a couple things for everyone out there that you should get checked a little early for. So if you have a family history of prostate cancer, like your father or your brother had prostate cancer, if you're Black, African American, you have a higher risk factor. And if you're a veteran, that's also a higher risk factor. So if you have any of those, we say get tested at 50, but if you have those risk factors, consider getting tested at 40. And ask your doctor, work with them. Obviously, your doctor's going to know these things and be able to help guide you through them, whether or not you should do them. But the PSA is a simple blood test. The DRE is the standard test. And so they'll give you those two things, and it's quick. It's easy. You do it once a year. And then you've got a baseline PSA for if something starts to creep up, right?
Oh, okay. Sort of like your control.
Right. If you're at risk. And if you don't have a big risk, you want to make sure you do it at 50. When your doctor says, hey, it's time to do this, you say, okay, yeah, well, let's do it.
Now, is there
and again, our guest is Matt Miller. He from the End of Prostate Cancer awareness walk, and that's coming up. So tell us more about how people can become a part of this and join in and participate, help, donate, whatever it is, every form of contact or participation, if you could go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing is website, right? Everybody can get to the website. If you can make it, you can register on the website. If you can't make it, you're more than welcome to donate and help us out on the website. It is www.zerocancer.run/Wilmington. That's zerocancer.run/Wilmington.
Okay. zerocancer.run/Wilmington.
Yep. Okay. And if you can't make it to the website, but you want to come out on Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m., we'll get you signed up.
Yeah, and so kind of give us the rundown of the event again. What else is going to take place at what time, if you've got that agenda?
Yeah, so 7:30 a.m. Our registration opens at Longleaf Park here in Wilmington. Our run walk will actually start at 9 a.m. Opening ceremonies at 8:30. And then after the run walk, right around 10 a.m., we'll do our survivor, caregiver, patient ceremony. And we'll also have our mission speaker, Dr. Shauna Bull from Wilmington Health Urology. And a couple sponsors I do want to mention about the Run Walk is Wilmington Health Urology as our host partner, Urology Associates of Southeast North Carolina as our presenting sponsor, International Paper sponsored our Kids Dash, and Dendreon and Accord Pharma are both sponsors for this event.
Yeah, make sure to get those in because they make a profound difference there. Again, you made the disclaimer early on, and we're not holding you, accountable for any of this medical stuff. But it's a font of information when it's something you care about. If I was to discuss multiple myeloma, the cancer that took my father, I would sound like I knew a lot more than your conventional individual on it, and just as you do on prostate cancer. What are there any signs? A lot of prostate cancer is just kind of a silent creep up and get you kind of thing. Are there any warning signs that men should be paying it? And by the way, this is a man thing. It right. is, it's no matter what pronoun you go by, if you've got a prostate, you can be affected by it.
You got a Y chromosome.
There you go.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about, what should people be looking out for in case they haven't been tested, something that might catch their attention.
Right. So the symptoms are very all over the place with this. So really what we say is, don't wait for symptoms. Make sure that you're going to the doctor and you're getting a PSA test, because long before you have any symptoms at all, and again, these symptoms vary by people, and sometimes there are none. So the PSA test is going to catch that long before you have any of that. So that's the real message we want to get out here, is just make sure that you're doing that. Occasionally in the community, we have PSA testing. And I believe, and this isn't my event, but I will try to be there. Advanced Urology in Leland is doing a free PSA screening on September the 30th. And I think Channel 6 just put something out about that. But it's like they're doing a tailgate football kind of theme with food, and they're going to do free PSA screening. And that's really for people who don't have access to insurance. They can go to those events and do that. And different communities around sometimes have these. It's kind of hit or miss to find them. We do a lot of mobile mammogram testing right now. So eventually that's something that we'd really like to include more in the health system, is the availability of free PSA testing, particularly in communities that just don't have a lot of access to healthcare.
So moving ahead, how can people get more involved, not just with this walk, but, Lyle being an activist with this, how can people get more involved with your organization?
Sure. So there are several ways. One, we plan to do this run walk every single year in Wilmington, and we'd love to have people obviously join on the committee. We'd love to have people join in as sponsors. So we're planning this for the fall every single year. The second way that you can get involved with Zero is to be a champion. We call our volunteers champions because they really are out in the community championing our cause. We have champions that attend health events and simply represent Zero with all these patient programs and information about prostate cancer. We have champions that run their own small fundraiser, whether it's doing something at a brewery. We have a program in November called Grow and Give, which is a fun way to kind of get involved. Start a team, grow some facial hair, shave off your facial hair. Last year, I raised $1,000 by telling people if I raised $1,000, I'd shave my beard. And apparently they wanted to see that.
And it grew back that quick. That's just a...
It did. I was surprised. I was worried it wouldn't even come back, Well, so we have that. And then, of course, I talked about advocacy a little bit earlier. We need people from districts all around the United States to help lobby their congresspeople, lobby their senators to get some of these bills passed. One thing that we do every year is the DOD has $110 million earmarked for prostate cancer research. And every year, our advocates go to Washington and we defend that if you don't defend it, it'll get taken away, right? So we go and we make sure that 110 million gets to prostate cancer research every year. We also work a little bit with the CDC and the VA on some different things. So if you want to be an advocate, if you want to be a champion, if you want to get involved with the Run Walk, 0cancer.org is the easiest way to go find that. And our local chapter is the South Atlantic chapter, and you'll find me there. And you just reach out to me, and I'd be glad to help you get involved.
We appreciate you being a part of things. Are there any issues that we've missed? Anything we didn't cover with respect to this? Because we'll go back and rehash a little bit of it. But is there anything we missed that you think needs to be pointed out, covered, or mentioned?
I really I'm not sure. I'd mention the numbers again. We went over this last time I was here, but it's 1 in 8 men. Right now, 3.1 million men are living with prostate cancer in America. And this year alone, more than 260,000 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and roughly 31,000 of them will die from prostate cancer. So those are numbers that we really want to bring down. And another huge factor, particularly in the South, is that Black men are 1.7 times more likely to get prostate cancer than white men. That's just genetics, right? But the problem is that they're 2.5 times more likely to die from prostate cancer. So we have a health disparities issue, a health equities issue. And a lot of that, again, I said early detection and treatment is paramount. A lot of that has to do with access to healthcare. So there are a lot of great organizations that are working on that, and we are working with them to try to do what we can to help eliminate that gap.
And again, people who want to get involved, tell us how they can get involved. And I mean, I've got it down to zerocancer.run/Wilmington. That's where they can find out in the event and get involved and register and be a part. It's a fun. And by the way, I don't want anyone to think it's a negative event. This is a positive. It's a fun event. If you've ever been a part of events like this, this isn't a negative. There's actually progress being made. There's a lot more to get excited about on the prostate cancer front than other forms of cancer, which have stymied and not really moved forward, or much more complicated. This one, there's a great deal more getting done every day to extend life, quality of life. It's not all about a prostatectomy. It's not now that they go and discover it and just say, hey, let's get the prostate out. There's so many different things that go on.
Right. Run walks like this are just a fantastic way for the community to come together. It raises that awareness that we're talking about, right? But, I've seen families that bring out generations of people, right? So they bring out the kids, the grandkids. And what it does is it really, if you're young and you get out to one of these races, you're aware of this in your life, right? You know that somebody in your family battled this disease, and you pay more attention to it. And you tell other people about it. So it's a super positive thing. I see, again, generations of families that come out, participate in this. And it's a great way to, do something about something that you really can't control sometimes.
Very, very well said, Matt. And we appreciate you being a part of it. What's your personal story with getting involved with this? I mean, young guy, shaving your beard every year, raising money for it. What's your connection to this? What was your inspiration to get involved?
So honestly, I kind of started with the organization without a connection. I saw an organization that was doing something that I just thought was really fantastic and was a really great opportunity to grow things where I'm from. I'm from South Carolina and North Carolina. So, growing things here in the Southeast. And as soon as I started this job, my dad told me my uncle had prostate cancer, and then my godfather had prostate cancer. So it's there, it's near your family, and sometimes they're just not talking about it, and it wasn't a conversation until I started literally working in the field, where they were like, oh, by the way, did you know? And I was like, well, no, I didn't, but it would have been great to know, right? So that's the other thing, is sharing that information a little more freely. It's a private thing, but it's big, and we don't realize how big it is when we don't talk about it.
Is there generally an age related? I always heard, almost all men over the age of 75 have, at least the early stages of prostate cancer in some way. Is there an age delineation with this where it's much more prevalent in one group than another? You mentioned the racial breakdown, which is genetically more likely to get it than someone else. But is there an age kind of thing where you see this? Is it just gradual as men get older?
I don't know that I can speak really to that, but I've heard some of the same things. I've seen some of the same things. Whereas, the older you get, there's an increased chance that you're going to have some cancer. But I don't know that that's fully the story. There's a lot of anecdotal stuff out there that really maybe hasn't been proven yet. One thing we actually don't know is definitively why veterans are so much more likely to get prostate cancer. They're 1 in 5. So that's another group that we try to focus on, but nobody knows. We know that Agent Orange, we know that burn pits, we know that, maybe radiation from flying so much, but there's no real definitive study that's ever been done to say.
Do we know anything about diet or exercise or anything that has an impact on it?
Yeah. So, ironically, what helps prevent prostate cancer is a healthy lifestyle. Think heart health. If you're doing something for heart health and you're living that healthy lifestyle, that's probably the best thing you can do for prostate cancer as well. So, it's not complicated, but it's also not easy for most of us to do.
No doubt. And Matt, appreciate you coming on to talk about the Zero Cancer Run. That's a run walk that's going on this weekend and being a part of our broadcast. And we're trying, reach as many people. Your job is to get out and reach as many people as possible. We appreciate you coming on and being a part of what we're doing here to help spread the word.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I've enjoyed the time here and appreciate y'all helping me spread the word.
Any final thoughts?
I think that's it.
Again, go to zerocancer.run/Wilmington, zerocancer.run/Wilmington. It's this weekend, right? Is this weekend?
This weekend, coming up tomorrow.
Weekend. Starts at 7th. Gosh, it's hard to believe it's Friday after Labor Day. It's mind-blowing. As you get older, my dad always said, if the days pass so much faster, the older you get because of your relative age. And so a week or a month goes by, and it's like, I can't believe. Yeah. But anyway, Matt, thanks for being a part of things. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got it. So TK, man, moving right along. Again, zerocancer.run/Wilmington. Check it out. TK and I'll be back for the second hour, getting ready to be underway, at least of my point of entry into this broadcast excellence excursion. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at BigTlker.live.
Have you heard about Cape Fear's only fitness community exclusively for those over 50? At Full Circle Fitness, we understand that goals, lifestyles, and our bodies change through the decades, which is why our Living Fit After 50 is custom designed to help you get a safe, effective workout without spending hours in the gym. Get started today. Call 910-399-8350 or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Queen Elizabeth has died. Her impact reached all around the world and across the pond, right here in the Cape Fear. Howie Franklin is the manager of the Cape Fear Regional Jetport in Oak Island. Before landing in Brunswick County, he served as the chief flight attendant on Air Force One. He worked under 5 presidents, meeting countless famous people, but he says Queen Elizabeth II stood out. You can hear from him on our website at wwaytv3.com. It is the final day of operations for Wilmington's True Colors, the brewery that has employed active gang members since 2017. Owners announced the shutdown earlier this week. WWAY has been invited to interview the employees before doors close for good later today. We'll see what the work experience has meant to those who work alongside rival gang members and find out their plans for the future. New Hanover County Schools is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Education for potential violations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act after a parent filed a complaint accusing the school district of discrimination. Katrina Aldrich says her oldest son went to Hoggard High School, a predominantly white school in the district, and 2 of her sons went to New Hanover High School, whose student body is primarily black and Hispanic. She began to notice a significant difference in the facilities in 2014. Aldrich says she sent letters to the school system and county about the differences between the schools and filed an official complaint with the federal government's Office for Civil Rights last August. And if you are willing to brave the rain, the Wilmington Police Department is offering a very special meet and greet today. You'll be able to meet Elton. He's a police source injured by an alleged impaired driver nearly 2 weeks ago. His trainers say Elton's hydrotherapy treatment is going well, and he is making great progress. Visitors are welcome to stop by Robert Strange Park at 401 South 8th Street starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For more on these stories, you can head over to wwaytv3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Romel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We have a pretty nice day on tap in the Cape Fear region with sunshine and clouds. Relatively lower humidity and temperatures right where they should be for this time of year. We'll get into the middle 80s inland of the coast, lower 80s along the immediate coastline, still dealing with a high risk for rip currents for those east-facing beaches. As we head into the overnight hours tonight, that's when we're going to start to see some changes take shape. Clouds increase and a few showers in store for us as our temperatures fall to the low 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
This week on All Things Brunswick, Dr. Terry Stoops from the John Locke Foundation will join us to discuss the recently released test scores from the state regarding student achievement and also to discuss the Brunswick scores in relation to statewide. Join us 6 p.m. Tuesdays here on The Big Talker.
If you enjoy the programming on The Big Talker, the best way to take it with you wherever you go and have access anytime you want it is the Big Talker app. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Go to BigTlker.live, download it for your Apple or Android device. Has all kinds of options for you. You can listen to programming, our video content. You can even watch it right there live on the app. Go to BigTlker.live, download the app for Android or Apple, and enjoy content from the Big Talker wherever you go, whenever you want it, however you want it.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the Lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. BigTlker.live is the website. Please download the app for Android and iOS devices. You can also send us an email with any comments, questions, compliments, critiques, or concerns you may have. We can't improve without your help. And as promised, we have a couple of smart people on this morning. And I'm really excited about this conversation with Dr. Adriana Romero-Olivares, PhD from the New Mexico State University, who is a mycologist. And I will give $1 to anybody who can call in and tell me what a mycologist is. The phone is not ringing.
We're not going to do that live, so, but no, very, very fascinating endeavor, and I would leave it to her to explain to folks what that is, because I think she can do it in a much more succinct manner than we would.
Amen. Welcome to the show, Dr. Olivares.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here. So mycology is, very broadly speaking, the study of fungi. So basically that's what mycologists do. They study fungi.
Okay, now fungi is another word for mushroom, or is there a difference between the two?
Well, yes, there is a difference. So mushrooms are fungi, but there's many other types of fungi that are not mushrooms.
Okay.
But mushrooms is a type of fungi.
Because this is where I get confused. I'm trying to understand the difference between the fungi that is a religious experience, fungi that is a pizza topping, and fungi that results in instant death. Because we have, throughout history, eaten these things. And that's how we discovered them.
Yeah, exactly. So the fungi that most people think of when someone says the word fungi, at least in my experience, is mushrooms. So that's one. Those are fungi. And then the other types of fungi, like kind of like the ones that you get on your toes. So those are fungi as well. So the difference is basically that one makes a body that you can see with your naked eye, and the other ones are kind of like invisible to the naked eye. So if you get a fungus in your toe, you know that you have it because your nail looks weird, but you don't get a mushroom in your toe, right? But yes, but they're both basically fungi. And there's many other types of fungi. There's some other fungi that you never get to see. They're just, floating around, or they're living in the soil. And the way that I like to think about mushrooms is kind of like the way that you think about fruits. So in the world of fungi, we actually call mushrooms a fruiting body, because it is kind of like the fruiting body of a fungus. And kind of like the true fungus, we call it mycelium. So the mycelium is kind of like the true fungus, and it's this sort of like network of threads that grows around the soil, for example. And those threads, that network will eventually make a mushroom. And what is the difference between, the different types of mushrooms, like why we can eat some of them and why some others can get us high without killing us, and why some others can kill us? It's just mostly based on the sort of like the natural properties that the mushrooms itself have. So the mushrooms have all sorts of substances inside them, and some of those substances interact with us in a positive way, so we can eat them and they taste good. Some other times you eat them and they get you high because they mess up your neurons. They produce some substances that make you go high. And then in other cases, those same substances completely and immediately shut down your liver. And then that's why you die.
Oy.
So that's kind of like the main difference.
I was amazed. I was on my farm in Sanford, and I saw this amazing mushroom, huge. It was like 6 inches across, and you'd put a dollar bill against it. I took pictures of it. I thought, that's amazing. And then I looked it up, and it's a destroying angel, which is one of the most deadly types of mushrooms you can get. I couldn't believe that. It's the majority of mushroom deaths due to mushrooms is from that. And then molds are also included in your field of study, because they're a form of fungi. I mean, black mold, brown mold, all these molds that are in people's houses also. I mean, it's a huge field. Are we still in the infancy of your field?
Yeah. That is exactly what's going on. So we have known about mushrooms for centuries, right? Because we can see them. So for the longest time, we thought that was it. Like, that's all there is out there in terms of fungi. But in the past it goes, when microscopes were invented, people realized so there's other more microscopic structures that apparently are fungi as well. And that was it. But then in the past, 2 decades, there was this boost in technology, molecular-based technology, and that actually has allowed us to sort of rediscover the field of mycology. And now with those tools, we've been able to, kind of find out that there's fungi everywhere in places that people didn't think of, like deserts, like the deep ocean, all sorts of different environments. Fungi are there. We just can't see them. It's very difficult to grow them in the lab. For example, some molds will grow in the lab relatively easily, but then there's some other ones that we just can't. And this is where the molecular tools have been very helpful for us and have shown us wait, we actually don't know. We know almost anything about the world of fungi because we're not able to see it. And it's only until 2 decades ago that we were able to actually start kind of quote unquote seeing things, but really we started to be able to study those things via DNA.
Now, Tika, I know you do. Okay, well, I was going to say one of the things, this new fantastic fungi over fungi, whatever, at Netflix has become very popular by a guy who's become kind of the famous guy in mushrooms, which is Paul Stamets. Now, doesn't have your background. I think his background was in forestry, and he's become kind of a celebrity in your, not in your world, but in the popular culture. He's become kind of a celebrity of sorts.
Yes, Paul Stamets, I really appreciate the work that he's doing to sort of like make fungi mainstream because, there's like two groups of people when you think about fungi or mushrooms, and it's like the people that really appreciate them because they're fascinated by them, and then the people that have like negative associations of them because, historically they've been associated with like witchcraft and like being poisonous and deathly and so on. So I really appreciate that Paul Stamets is kind of like making them mainstream and just showing the importance that fungi have in our life in general, because they have, they interact with us in many different ways. They form very close relationships with plants. So just in general, he's doing a great job. I do think, as a scientist, I do think that a lot of the information that is out there is kind of like taken out of context and taken out of proportion. And some of the things included in the documentary, like they're not completely right. But I understand that sometimes that's what you have to do to get actually people interested in the topic. And sometimes exaggerating things a little bit, it's a good way to get people to care about what you care. And I think that's definitely what's happening in that documentary. Fungi are wonderful, but there are a lot of nuances in how they work with other organisms.
And to your point, I mean, it is entertainment to that point, because You're right. That's the criticism of it. But it does draw people into an otherwise unknown world. And his experience was that, hey, look down at everything that's going on. Now, the reason I brought that up, unbeknownst to TK, was because this leads us to TK's most inquisitive aspect of this that he's definitely wanted and waited for days to ask you about, because Stamets talked about the interconnectivity underneath the forest floor. Of even the way that we believe that fungi allow this is bizarre, but to allow trees to communicate in forest, to allow all sorts of different aspects of forestry to communicate underneath the surface due to these connections with fungi, which TK, go ahead. I know you're dying to ask about.
Oh, I'm dying. This is how I met Dr. Romero-Olivares. The honey from the Atlantic Science section, the honey mushroom is also an example of the extreme forms that life can take. Thousands of years ago, one honey fungus species, I cannot pronounce it, birthed a spore that settled in what we now think of as Oregon, started to spread, and never stopped. Quote, "It was just extremely successful at growing," says Adriana Romero-Olivares, mycologist at New Mexico State University, "and so it got extremely large. Today, that individual fungus inhabits roughly 2,400 acres of Earth. Nicknamed the humongous fungus, it is one of the planet's largest known organisms and the biggest ever recorded by area on land. One spore generated 2,400 acres. Now, the title of the article, "The bigger this fungus gets, the worse we are doing. Human actions have turned a usually beneficial fungus into a bringer of death," which obviously is a clickbait type of article to get you into it. But I was fascinated by it, that the honey mushroom has a unique place in the ecosystem of forests, etc., but it has turned carnivorous, it seems, at this point.
Yes and no. So this organism is, it's really unique in the sense that it's really huge. It is also an organism that has been deeply studied because it causes a disease to trees, and these trees are trees that we use for wood. So to make furniture.
Everything.
So in a way, one of the reasons why that fungus has been studied so much is because it's devastating the populations of trees. We don't know if other species of fungi grow in a similar way and are that large. As I mentioned at the beginning, fungi make networks, and we don't even know like how big these networks are. There are some estimations, but just in general, we don't know for sure. This organism is really peculiar because it seems like this one mycelium is a single organism. Just the way that fungi grow are very complex and difficult for us to understand. Like, what is an individual in a fungus? Like, if you think of a network, like, what is an individual? Is one network an individual, even though it has multiple cells and it has multiple nuclei? So like, what makes an individual? Like, that itself is a question. It's a question that it's just very confusing for mycologists. But something that's really peculiar about this organism is that they took a sample of the fungus, like say in point A, and then they took another sample in like point B, which was like many, 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 many miles away. And when they analyzed the DNA, they realized that the DNA was exactly identical on both points, which tells you this is probably the same organism. And they were like, wow, this organism is humongous. And that's why it's called humongous fungus.
Which is a great name.
But isn't it also,
it's a great name.
Whereas with viruses can be defined as neither technically alive or dead because of the way they function and can be inactive for thousands of years. It's a very challenging field. And I would think in your field, doesn't the very nature of fungi kind of challenge our notion of life, death, uniqueness, hives, the way they interact, the way they create, the way they can branch off, and can't they evolve very quickly as well? I mean, these are some of the most adaptable life forms on the planet.
I'm glad they don't have legs all of a sudden.
Yeah, in almost every measurable way. I'm glad insects are not 6 feet tall too. But so when I look at this, this is one of the most adaptable forms of life known, and we still don't fully understand the nature of life with respect to them.
Yes, exactly. And those are actually my favorite questions. And those are kind of like the questions that I think about, and I want to study them all the time, like especially the question on adaptability. Yes, fungi adapt very quickly. Actually, in my lab, we study climate change, and we study how fungi are responding and adapting to climate change. So when people ask me like, oh, what do we have to do? Or like, how can we stop climate change to protect fungi? And I'm like, don't worry about fungi. Like, the fungi are going to be okay. They're going to adapt very, very quickly.
They were here before us.
They survived the Holocene period and the Ice Ages with no problem. And they can proliferate.
Exactly.
And these things can grow a lot faster than any known animal in the world. I mean, these things can proliferate very quickly.
Are we sure they're not
long after we're
sentient?
gone. They have a communication grid. That's challenging our way they communicate, does it not, Doctor?
Yeah, exactly. They have a very specific way of communication that involves, gases, liquids, very like all sorts of different molecules, connections between them. So yeah, it's something that we also still don't understand very well.
Even electrical, isn't there kind of a mild electrical notice that happens in these forest floors of some type? It may be, I guess it's chemical. It's more chemical than electrical, but quick.
Yes,
fast.
Exactly. Yes, I guess there is some electricity. I feel like a physicist would be able to answer that question a little bit better, but it's mostly chemical to my understanding. And there may be some electricity there caused by chemistry, but I wouldn't know that for sure. I know for sure it's chemical, not sure if it's electrical.
Right. We referred to this earlier, and I mentioned kind of where, as much as we know, there's so much we still don't know. You're in an emerging field. And is it that because it looks like it's almost transforming that these fungi transform more quickly than our ability to classify them. Like you said, you can find something 20 miles apart that has identical DNA, but you can also find it right next to it that somehow is branched off and looks very different. Because looking at it at a DNA level is it's very different with respect to classification than a typical animal in the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species way.
Yes, absolutely. And there is a huge amount of fungi that we don't even know what their name is. We just know that it exists because of the molecular tools that I was talking about, but we don't really know what the species is. We don't really know how the fungus looks if you were to like isolate it and grow it in the lab. Like we don't really know. We actually refer to those fungi as like unknown fungi because we don't know what they are. It could be that some fungi existed and like went extinct already, and we never really get to know them.
Right.
So yeah, it is a huge field. I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where we identify everything just because we don't have the tools as of yet.
And they evolve quickly. I mean, how quickly can a new subspecies adapt and become a different subspecies in fungi? I mean, I would think very quickly.
I would think so. That is a great question, and that is something that we don't know actually, because there's like certain very basic things about fungi that we don't know. Like we don't know at what rate they grow. We don't know at what in the soil. I mean, like at what rate they grow, what rate they reproduce, how many spores they produce. So those sorts of things you need to know, kind of like to calculate adaptability and evolutionary rates. And because we don't know that information, we don't know how quickly lineages or like subspecies are coming up. It's just
and we most folks that are hearing this, they go to bed one night and they get up the next morning, whether it's a heavy dew or a slight rain or there's been a period of rain, and they look out in the yard and there's 5 million that you have to wonder. It's almost like someone planted them overnight.
Little fairy ring,
because they can grow so quickly. That's astounding how you can almost see them grow. It's that fast. I ran into one. I tell you what, I ran into one on the farm that I had never seen before. Bright orange, beautiful color. I guess it's called a skunk cabbage because it's got a horrific odor to it. It smells like a dead animal, but wow.
Yes, they grow very fast. When they're ready to make their fruiting bodies, they're like very sensible to the environment. So as soon as they sense like humidity, they're like, okay, time to make a fruiting body. And then it can just say, yeah, like you said, it can grow overnight. It's really, really, really impressive. And just the sort of like, if you think about how complex the fruiting bodies are and just how they're able to create them overnight, it blows my mind. And this is why I study them.
Now, every organism has a series of processes. They have to eat, they have to discharge, they have to build energy, they use that energy. The humongous fungus that caught my attention is normally would feed on dead trees, which is cellulose that cannot be processed or broken down by any land animal, because that's normally how most of that is processed on the planet. So the mushroom's job, or the mycelium, is to break down the dead cellulose into stuff that the earth and other animals can use. This one is out of control. Is that what's happening? It's now killing live trees and taking them down, not waiting for them to die?
Yeah, so the way that it works is kind of tricky because the fungus itself can be like, it can exist with a plant without killing it. So it can be kind of like, neutral, does no harm.
Like lichen on a tree.
Right, but then it's opportunistic. It's what we call it. So it takes the opportunity. Like if the plant becomes kind of like weak all of a sudden, then the fungus takes the opportunity and they're like, okay, this is my moment. So now I can start like taking advantage of the fact that this plant is weak, and I'm going to kill this plant by, just like eating off its entire wood, and then it starts to like carry out or starts to decompose the organism that it's still like not fully dead, but then in the process of it decomposing it, then it kills it.
Man.
And there are a number of these TK fungi, and she can address this, that if they get in the human bloodstream in some way, they're very difficult. And it's very sci-fi for folks looking from the outside, that you can get certain ones that are in your bloodstream, and they're very difficult to treat, and they can kill you.
They fungal diseases in humans are actually very scary.
What was the term again?
I would be very afraid of a pandemic of a fungal disease.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. Wow. And we know we're used to bacteria and viruses and infections, but fungal diseases, I mean, the whole athlete's foot is one thing, but there are tons of other ones that if they get in your bloodstream are just, it's a conducive environment to certain ones to replicate. The human immune system doesn't pick up on it, can't attack it. It can overwhelm a body in very little time. As she said, terrifying. And that's actually another reason why I think fungi are so fascinating, and like the reason why fungal diseases are so bad for us is because even though fungi are extremely different to us in principle, they're actually pretty similar. Their cells are actually pretty similar to animal cells, including us, like human cells. So then it's really difficult to make any drugs against them, because it's really difficult to kill a fungus cell without harming human cells.
Wow. So no snorting spores. That'd just be a bad idea.
TK, I tell you.
That's for all my friends, man. That's for all the guys out on the road. There's a lot of things you can do. Leave the mushrooms out of it. Because you only got 3 choices. It's a pizza topping, it's a religious experience, or instant death. And
well, not instant, but it's not just mushrooms. Again, there's these things that, invasion of the body snatcher type things. So with respect to that, do you foresee, a lot of people are trying to demystify, to TK's point about mushrooms and how they're being used more medicinally every day. They're being used, I saw on CBS News the other night, they're using it to treat alcoholism. They're using psilocybin to treat alcoholism, which just seems kind of backwards way. But you're seeing this emerging field where you're seeing these chemicals that are identified in mushrooms treating different things, PTSD, for instance. Do you see that field continuing to grow? Seems like a lot of interest.
Yes, I think that field is really getting a lot of attention. I really hope that we get more research support. We need money to study that. So I'm really hopeful that we get the financial support that we need to look into that a little bit more. There is some promising preliminary data, and I hope that continues. I do think it's a promising area of research that has the potential to treat many mental health diseases or illnesses, and like other problems like PTSD, addiction, and so on. So definitely, in my opinion, something that is very worth looking into.
Well, Dr. Olivares, we appreciate you being a part of the broadcast this morning. I'll let TK take it out here at the bottom of the break, but personally, thank you for what you do and for being a part of what we're doing. I do have one last question about the fungiloverlab.com. This sounds like a party for mycologists, a virtual party. Tell us a little bit about that, because there seems to be a number of entries just at the top of the page that really sets your lab apart from others.
Yeah, so that is what we call my lab. We call it Fungi Lover Lab, and I am Fungi Lover. And in my lab, we do a lot of different things. We do science, just in the form of like experiments, studying fungi in all different levels, at the species level, at the community level, at the ecosystem level. And then we do some other like fun things. We really care about social justice, environmental justice, and we do some of that as well. And anyone is welcome to visit my lab webpage or my lab if you happen to be in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And, any questions that you may have about mycology, I'm always very happy to to chat. So reach out.
And one of the articles I would point to in there is What Will It Take to Decolonize Ecology is an incredible read. It took me a minute. I had to go through it a couple of times. It's not short. It's not light. But there's a lot of issues in there that need to come to light to help us get our ecology back on track at a global level, not just neighborhood by neighborhood, interest group by interest group.
Absolutely.
So definitely visit and I'm still going to mess up the pronunciation. Fungi lover, fungi lover.
It can be fungi, fungi. People pronounce it in all different ways and always are correct.
Oh, so it's like a tomato.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So fungiloverlab.com is where you can reach out to Dr. Romero-Olivares, which is an amazing name. It's been 30 years since I spoke Spanish on a regular basis, that getting those sounds back is amazing. And thank you again for your time.
I think you're doing great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And as we have more questions about mushrooms and the fruit thereof, I'm sure we're going to reach out to you.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are going to take unless you have something, Mr. Adams?
Oh, we're ready to roll to a break.
Yep, I am running a little behind, but that was fascinating, educational. Wow. I'm going to go order a pizza right now. With that in mind, the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, will be right back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. Queen Elizabeth has died. Her impact reached all around the world and across the pond, right here in the Cape Fear. Howie Franklin is the manager of the Cape Fear Regional Jetport in Oak Island. Before landing in Brunswick County, he served as the chief flight attendant on Air Force One. He worked under 5 presidents, meeting countless famous people, but he says Queen Elizabeth II stood out. You can hear from him on our website at wwaytv3.com. It is the final day of operations for Wilmington's True Colors, the brewery that has employed active gang members since 2017. Owners announced the shutdown earlier this week. WWAY has been invited to interview the employees before doors close for good later today. We'll see what the work experience has meant to those who work alongside rival gang members and find out their plans for the future. New Hanover County Schools is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Education for potential violations of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act after a parent filed a complaint accusing the school district of discrimination. Katrina Aldrich says her oldest son went to Hoggard High School, a predominantly white school in the district, and 2 of her sons went to New Hanover High School, whose student body is primarily black and Hispanic. She began to notice a significant difference in the facilities in 2014. Aldrich says she sent letters to the school system and county about the differences between the schools and filed an official complaint with the federal government's Office for Civil Rights last August. And if you are willing to brave the rain, the Wilmington Police Department is offering a very special meet and greet today. You'll be able to meet Elton. He's a police source injured by an alleged impaired driver nearly 2 weeks ago. His trainers say Elton's hydrotherapy treatment is going well, and he is making great progress. Visitors are welcome to stop by Robert Strange Park at 401 South 8th Street starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For more on these stories, you can head over to wwaytv3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We have a pretty nice day on tap in the Cape Fear region with sunshine and clouds. Relatively lower humidity and temperatures right where they should be for this time of year. We'll get into the middle 80s inland of the coast, lower 80s along the immediate coastline, still dealing with a high risk for rip currents for those east-facing beaches. As we head into the overnight hours tonight, that's when we're going to start to see some changes take shape. Clouds increase and a few showers in store for us as our temperatures fall to the low 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, located at 8210 River Road, Southport, is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with the Tackle Box open Monday through Saturday, 7 to 6. Marine Service Pro is a full Suzuki and Tohatsu dealership. They deal in pre-owned boats, full service and repair with certified technicians in all engines and fiberglass specialists. The Tackle Box offers fresh local seafood, live bait, a tackle shop, and fish packing and shipping. They also offer a full-service U-Haul dealership. Spend time with Leon or Jenny for one-stop shopping at Marine Service Pro and the Tackle Box Seafood, 8210 River Road, Southport.
This week on All Things Brunswick, Dr. Terry Stoops from the John Locke Foundation will join us to discuss the recently released test scores from the state regarding student achievement and also to discuss the Brunswick scores in relation to statewide. Join us 6 p.m. Tuesdays here on The Big Talker.
I do. You should have seen the work I did for the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association when I was in Louisville. Big work. Oh, they made big burgers.
Big work. Big
and
man.
one of the things they did, they served this incredible steak that had been marinated in Kentucky bourbon. LeBreau Graham. What is
sounds muy delicioso.
Oh, it is amazing. And they used the wood from one of the barrels that had been soaked in the bourbon.
So you have no transition in your mind when you come back. You just music and mics on, right?
And welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. The website is BigTlker.live. Please download the app for Android and iOS devices. Pair that device with your automobile's entertainment system, and you can take the Big Talker anywhere and everywhere you want to be. Of course, you can send an email to Chad Adams right there on the front of the webpage. Let him know how much of a wonderful morning host he is, better than that long-haired hippie liberal guy.
And in comes the hate mail, so then it pours in. Hate mail.
Yeah, get that liberal hippie off of the air, for Christ's sake. Yeah, get Chad on here. He knows what he's talking about. I don't know what this idiot about
Lord
mushrooms is about. Why would I be interested in mushrooms when we're facing such issues right here in southeastern North Carolina?
I don't think it's
what
that.
The hell
I think
is
it's
wrong
just
with me?
there's not. It's not about an issue of mushrooms. Mushrooms are an emerging field. So fungi and like she made the most astute observation she made. That, in my opinion, as we're talking to her, that she said, "Thank God we're not facing a pandemic of fungi." Because it would be a very difficult thing to eradicate or fight. The way, you're talking about an aerosolized pathogen or parasite that's very difficult to deal with because of the mimicry of human cells. So, we got to be thankful. I'm thankful for a lot of what we have in the world. I'm thankful that we can live inside. I'm thankful that we can control our environment and change it. I'm thankful for many things because we are poorly designed. For all these people that are climate change freaks, and I appreciate her push. I'm thankful that those people don't win, because if we were heating our house with cow manure because we can't heat it with conventional electricity, and to think that all of this clean energy, green energy crap that they're doing, the windmills, which are chopping up birds and actually disintegrate, and we have to put those in landfills, or these solar panels that you have to clear cut thousands of acres of land to produce enough electricity to power a small city, and also reflects back up into the atmosphere, by the way, heating it up, and creates a hazard when bugs get on it and birds fry to death. They literally almost burst into flames when they go to try to get the bugs that are off the solar panels. So there is no magic formula. To act like there's some damn magic formula out here is absurd, is absolutely obscene. That we are consumers of energy. It is, and if you took that away, all of these little tree hugging, teeny boppers that have their iPhones needing to be recharged every 2 hours, they would be screaming for mom and dad in about 10.5 minutes. Were they to have all of their electrical gadgetry and petroleum products that they wear and use to go from point A to point B taken away from them. They have no earthly concept of reality. They're just detached from it. The way to do it, take a bunch of them, take their phones away, put them in knapsacks, turn them loose in the woods for about 2 days. They would have an entirely different view of the world. I've camped out when it was 7 degrees above zero. I've camped out when it dropped down to about 3 degrees below zero. You have an appreciation for being able to get warm real fast.
Hot water heaters.
And if you work out in fields and it's 100 plus degrees with about 85% humidity, you have an appreciation for the fact that you can actually transition to a house that has some kind of AC. You don't have to go, God, I'm glad the day's over. Now I get to sleep in this sweltering heat and sweat in my bed all night. running water is a big deal. And luckily, thank God, it evaporates, goes to the sky, and falls back down in the form of rain. We live in a remarkable system. And these people that think that we're that we're intentionally destroying the planet when we've been both warmer and colder. Personally, I think we're much better off than when there was a mile of ice above Chicago. I think the coming of an ice age would terrify. If that reality, and all it takes is a little tilting of the earth and a little modification of the sun, very tiny things in the grand scheme of things, to change this to an inhospitable place to exist. And imagine that. And so, anyway, I get wound up because when I see California can't turn on their air conditioning because of a heat wave.
Now let's go back to the founding fathers and what life was like during their day.
Oh,
it
sure.
wasn't that they go to the store and get a slice of burger on a little white tray. It doesn't grow there, right? Somebody had to go get the cow, wrestle it, kill it. Or deer.
Yeah.
Right? The vegetables didn't appear in the grocery store. There wasn't any centralized market of that nature at the time.
You weren't buying pineapples or oranges.
Oh, yeah.
At
We
the
didn't even know what
local
those
market.
were. Hell, no.
So you weren't, think about the limited options they had. And of course, think about the other thing to consider is, what did that smell like back then?
Oh, my God.
When you walked into a room full of people working, what did that smell like? People would wilt. They would wilt and pass out. They would not be able to deal with the reality of what that life was like. And yet they're pushing for us to have that life again.
And the
Let's
planet
not
is gonna do what
shower.
it does
Let's not
without it.
shower. Let's not shower but once. This don't take a shower movement where you got Hollywood people saying, I didn't shower for 5 months. It was great. I'm thinking, sure, that'll work. That'll really work for you.
I'm thinking, what was that thing in New York, Woodstock?
Yeah.
I mean, that had to be a sea of mud, hair, and body odor.
Yummy, just yummy. And this is what, we are alterers of the environment. We are designed to be so. Just watch a couple episodes of Naked and Afraid. Now, and even in those episodes where these people, they take their clothes off, they're going to survive in the Amazon for, 7 days or a 40-day challenge or whatever. The beauty of that is, in any minute when they get injured, I was going to say something sillier, but when they get injured, when they get a splinter that gets infected, they can literally say, "Hey, medic!" And they bring this advanced medical tech over to take a look at them and say, "Yeah, you can stay or you might die. Let's get out of here." But they know that they have the ability to say,
"There's a hotel
medic,"
room not a mile away.
In real life, in the real environment, you don't have the ability to say, "Medic." Wait till your global warming, non-gas powered ambulance can't be charged and can't get to you. Wait until a hurricane hits and you try to clear that giant tree through your house when you have no electricity with, a nail file or a steak knife. The reality of the world that the left wants to create is absolutely, even the DC comic superheroes would be like, I'm not helping anybody out with this. Are you kidding me?
I'm heading to another planet.
You can fire this nuclear facility up and have power. No, Superman, we can't. We've got you. So, there is no superhero. There are no Avengers. And so when you turn the switches off at a nuclear facility or a coal-fired power plant, your life doesn't become different eventually. It becomes different instantly. Your power goes off. It goes instantly. You become a very primitive human being when there's no ring.
Suddenly you cannot identify the toilet in the bathroom with the door closed.
Oh, wait till you can't flush the toilet. Oh, wait, you're pretending water gets delivered to your house. How do you think it gets delivered? It gets pumped. How does it get pumped? A massive pumping station that uses electricity.
Well, once the gravity has taken the last of it, because I usually have one tank left in my...
but if it's gone, you got one tank.
Now it's a dried out mess.
So you pee outside, but then the rest of it, I don't know. Imagine everybody's doing it. Imagine everybody's taking a poop outside all of a sudden. It's a very different world with outhouses, especially with density. An outhouse on every lot? No.
Now, if we don't have
No.
AC and we go back to the old ways, are we going to bring back petticoats with like 17 layers of clothes?
No. If you take away AC, really, if you're a global warming enthusiast, if you really are in the church of global warming, what you really want to do is you got to destroy AC. And if you can destroy AC, what you do is effectively, if you want to destroy the South and all the red states, get rid of AC. Make it illegal. Nobody will live in those states. Nobody will live south of Tennessee or south of Virginia ever. I mean, people won't live in North Carolina without air conditioning. They might move to the mountains, but they'll abandon. All of a sudden, the reason the coast is so exciting and fun is because, man, the coast is amazing. I can go out there, get a suntan, and then I can go in the nice AC and have my drink at night. I can cook my steak. Wait a minute, no steak? I got to eat crickets? Oh, yeah, that's right. And then to power it, I can't power it with wood because that destroys the environment. I can't put coal in there. So how the hell am I going to heat my house and cook my steaks? I'm going to have to move back up north where I can live without AC. And maybe until it gets cold.
Right.
Yeah. So
I've seen people
it's
in
a paradox.
Kentucky taking, like, where the coal trucks would come down the mountain, some of the bituminous coal would fall out. And then they would take these chunks of raw coal and throw it in a barrel inside the house.
You got, man, heat.
I left
we
that
love
place
to pretend
covered in kerosene,
right?
Type of
and creosote.
God,
so
it was
you want to
nasty.
pretend. We want to pretend that, well, not creosote. That would be the timbers that cover.
But
exude
whatever
creosote.
that crap is, it was horrible. It tasted bad. It was oily
no
and nasty.
doubt. Ash and clink and all sorts of stuff. So you have, but the beauty of this is we do have ways of delivering 24/7 power. We do have remarkable technology that allows it to be fairly efficient. We are able to not die just because. I mean, also imagine you can't sleep inside and you've got to deal with all the bugs. So all of a sudden, every time you got to have mosquito nets over your sweat-soaked bed.
Sounds like we're vacationing in Bali again.
But this is where the reality of this church of nascent ignorance erupts from the vestiges of the climate change movement. They never apply the realities. They think that, we're just going to all have these electric cars that charge themselves and everybody's going to have a little tiny windmill and it's going to power enough for their house. They never look at the scalability of the energy utilization that they need. And I know I just said a bunch of syllables there together, but again, imagine if you can get rid of all this petroleum stuff. You can't move ships. I'm sitting here at the mouth of the Cape Fear. I see these ships coming in every day, and billions of dollars in commerce are taking place at the speed of engines moving across the oceans, and that moves up to Wilmington. But if you got rid of all of the oil and all of the fossil fuel
It would
industries,
be the best thing for employment ever, because now we could paddle just like the old Viking ships with massive oars across the ocean.
Dude, but you would never see another pineapple. You would never see another orange.
It takes longer.
No, they're rot by the time they get to you. Because remember, you have no way to preserve stuff either. You can't preserve it.
No, just pack it in
because that
salt.
takes energy. You don't have, and by the way, forget insulin, because you have to keep insulin cold. And if you can't keep things cold, so you wipe off the diabetics. So just imagine all the medical technology. Thank God we have power, because there's no more MRIs. There's just no more real hospitalizations. It's like, I'm sorry, you're sick. Go home. Here's some aspirin, which is derived from tree bark. Enjoy, because we can't mass produce medicines
comfortable
anymore.
as you fade away. But
And then our lifespans will drop back down to the 30s.
And that's what nature is all about. It's going to equalize us towards. How did Tyler Durden put it? Given a long enough timeline, survivability for everyone drops to zero. Well,
that's a nuclear war. You can do that pretty quickly. But the truth
but if
is,
we took away all electricity and industry and we went back to living, monkey style, a lot of problems would be eliminated all by themselves. We would no longer have this they/them pronoun battle anymore, because
no. Oh, absolutely, the world changes instantly.
Yeah.
Then. Because
suddenly our priorities are shifted back to something more basic.
That's the irony of wokeism. I mean, if liberals ever truly achieved what they said they wanted to achieve, they would instantly become very primitive. we would all become very primitive. We wouldn't, and all of it would go away instantly. We would be back to, indentured servitude and slavery. They don't realize that they're actually pushing. And at the turn of the century of the 1900s, our lifespans were somewhere between 35 and 40.
Which is why we got married at 15.
And they hadn't changed substantively in in 2,000 years. Maybe a little bit, but they were inching up. But the last 100 years has changed dramatically. I mean, you think about what Queen Elizabeth witnessed. If you were living in the 15 and 1600s, over the course of your lifespan, nothing really changed.
But from the late 1800s through the 20th century.
But in our lifespan,
like watching electricity come in, watching horseless carriages come in.
Power,
radio, television.
Power, AC, television, entertainment, life quality,
automobiles, ambulances.
Sure. Even the way we deal with trash. Everything has become.
Wasn't that the plague? Wasn't that the course of the plague back?
But look at, if you're an observer of life, look at any aspect of life and really look at it. When you throw that trash in the bin and you put it out by the street, you're thankful that someone picks it up, and you think, oh my God, it probably goes to the super landfill. No, those landfills are like Star Trek in many ways. Now, the technology that goes into landfill compaction, disintegration, and the way they become inert in a much shorter period of time than people realize is rather remarkable. And in Virginia Beach, Mount Trashmore is a giant city park. It's a landfill that now is the highest point in Virginia Beach. So it's a park. You can play soccer on it, throw a Frisbee. But the point is, we don't take the time to really be appreciative of the life we had. Instead, the goal should be to make it better, right? I think there's a natural evolution to power generation. In fact, I know there's a natural evolution as we move closer to what powers the sun. You move toward a hydrogen-based society. That's the kind of energy you want. It's powered the sun for billions of years. It's still got a few billion years left. So that's what you're moving naturally to. You move from, burning cow dung to coal to wood, and from wood to petroleum products, from petroleum products to other fuel sources, and geothermal and nuclear, from nuclear on to hydrogen or fission to fusion. So, but those are natural. But when you force them, bad things happen, and it doesn't work. And so, but if you let it, we naturally are moving that way. And but trying to create an alarm when there's no reason to have an alarm is foolish. I even liked what Dr. Olivares said. Hey, climate change isn't destroying the funguses. It's not. It's just not that way. She was very honest about that, and it's certainly not destroying our means of growing crops. In fact, we can grow more crops theoretically. We need to quit being so panic oriented. Life is good if you've got it, and it's very temporary, and then it's gone. And then it's never again. That's your time on the planet. Would you rather spend it just bitching and complaining about everything, or actually trying to make things better without lecturing everybody about how right you are and how wrong they are?
Man.
But that's just me.
And that's why we have smarter people than you, because I'm still looking at it as, the avocado. I will happily drive to Mexico to get.
Can't drive, dude. Can't drive.
Well,
Remember?
I can, because I know how magnetism works, and I can generate electricity on the fly. Thank you very much.
You and Nikola Tesla, right?
Yeah, man.
Yep.
I was paying attention in those classes. I may not know where the participle is.
You would have to get through all of the various, tribal cities between here and Mexico and not get killed in the process. Right, so that's what also happens.
Underestimate my resourcefulness.
Yeah, I don't underestimate crap. That's why people hoard weapons and food, because they're afraid of that. The Great Reset. I think they call it the Great Reset.
I'm going to take with me the killer mycelium. So if anybody gets near me, I'm going to throw mycelium on them.
I'll just take the humongous fungus and live inside it. Just carve it out.
Yeah, just carve out a cave in there, and
carve out a cave.
Pick off the mushrooms as they grow for my pizza. And I can talk to Buddha directly. That's always, it's one of those things where I've heard about it. There was even a book that I read where part of the army would eat this mushroom that would make them completely berserk and, indefeatable in war. Wow. A lot of our society was, you have more of it. I mean, I only go back to as far as when New Mexico became a state in 1812, I think it was, your studies go back centuries. Like, as we had mentioned, some of the musket holes in the cathedral in London are older than our Constitution. So you have a different perspective on this than a kid would, for example.
Yes. Perspective is everything. That's why when I see, my kids come home to visit or some of their friends and some of the things they say, you just have to couch it. You've been an adult for 0.5 seconds. So your reality, I know your reality is going to change in the next 4 or 5 years. All these things that you think are really important to you right now, like your Snapchat streaming or string, or thread. What is it called? I can't even remember right now. But, that's just going to fade. And your little metallic straw, you're going to forget all about. You're going to remember your metallic straw was full of fungi and things that were bad for you. You're going to remember that when you got an infection in your mouth from your metal straw that wasn't quite cleaned. These are the things that their realities will change so dramatically when mommy and daddy aren't paying the bills.
So you think experiential knowledge is going to be the best educator?
Yeah, always.
Well, I'm getting one of those fun little scam calls that during the regular day I would take the time to embarrass this little bastard trying to scam me. Scammer. But I can't do that this morning. I'm just going to waste their time and let them listen to me rant on the radio with my friend Chad.
No rants. Look, I think the greatest way to be happy in life is to, it's very Christian in nature. It's kind of love yourself, love others, and try to make the world a better place because
except
it's really,
scammers. Except scammers. Love everybody except scammers.
Oh man, just the scammers. They have a job to do, and our job is to make sure they don't scam us. Oh, I think a lot of them think they have a job. These
are my clients, not my victims.
There's some call for them in China, getting paid $1 a month and eating crickets, and it's a rough life for them. So, but the point is, life is tough, life is unfair, bad things are going to happen to you regardless of how you play the game, and you just have to move forward with that and have some degree of optimism that you're going to make a difference, and not hold too many grudges, because grudges, those are the kind of things that eat you alive. Someone does you wrong and you want to hold that grudge, it's not going to help you. It's not going to make your life better in any substantive way.
It's not going to make you any money.
It's not going to. And a lot of people, they like to hold on to those things. And that's where you get into the obsession and the ego of power.
Yeah, the sense of importance over someone else. I'm more important than them.
Sure. I mean, humility is a great thing. Humility with strength. Those are two very powerful things. Know your strength, know who you are, and have some degree of humility about what you don't know. That's my life. But who am I to lecture anybody else?
Still here.
Oh, well, no, the station is still here because of you and Yael and the hard work y'all have done, and just that we believed in you guys. It's not, let's not pretend who did what here. But TK, appreciate what you have done, and enjoyed the time here. And I got to run because life keeps coming at me.
Yeah, and I appreciate the support only because doing this on my own, it gets a little tiring. And of course, I only have so many penis jokes, so it's good to have smart people on here.
And that's how we finish the show today. Thank you very little for that one. Have a great day.
All it does is strengthen my argument. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for another wonderful morning here on the Big Talker. Sorry, do that. Oh, he's already gone. With that in mind, we are going to let the station roll on from here, and we will see you on Monday. You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at BigTlker.live.